The Ijaw, the oldest guardians of the Delta, the true masters of the Mangrove, once heroes who protected others, now called pirates by the very people they once saved. It's a painful twist in history, and one few ever talk about. Before Nigeria, before the first European ship touched our shores, there were people who ruled the waters, people who lived, fought, and prayed with the tide. They were the Ijaw, the first river kings, and the oldest inhabitants of the swamps and mangroves that today we call the Niger Delta. Their story is one of courage, betrayal, and survival. The story written in water and blood. European explorers didn't discover the Ijaw. They found them already there. When the Portuguese sailors first mapped the West African coast in the 15th century, their logs described river people skilled in navigation, whose canoes moved like ghosts through the mangrove. By the 1820s, British trader John Adams, in his book Sketches Taken During 10 Voyages to Africa, called the Ijaw men of the rivers, independent and fierce. And in 1856, explorer William Balfour Beike described them as masters of the mangrove labyrinths, people who knew the tides better than any European sailor. Long before colonization, the Ijaw had already built a world on water, fishing, trading, and navigating the creeks that outsiders feared to enter. Modern archaeological work from Ogbutubo and Nembe, published by the Niger Delta Research Center in 2018, uncovered pottery and iron relics dating before 1400 AD. That's proof that Ijaw settlements existed centuries before the first European contact. Some researchers once claimed they migrated from the Niger-Benue region, but this evidence tells a different story. The Ijaw didn't come to the Delta. They were already there. Then came the ships, first the Portuguese, then the British and Dutch. By the 1700s, trade turned to trickery. Guns and gin replaced shells and salt. And suddenly, the same waterways that fed the Ijaw became routes for the slave trade. British records from the late 1700s describe how European merchants armed some Delta chiefs, turning them against their neighbors to gain control of the palm oil routes. The Bonny Calaberry Wars, 1790 to 1800, became one of the bloodiest conflicts. Not just for wealth, but for who controlled the river. The Ijaw fought to defend their homes. They weren't pirates, they were protectors. But history, written by the victors, changed their story. European missionaries in the 1800s often wrote about Ijaw priests who would speak to the river before any journey. To outsiders, it looked like superstition, but to the Ijaw it was faith. Their gods, Oyengi, Egbesu, Adumu, were not idols. They were guardians of life itself. Every tide carried a story. Every ripple in the water held memory. To live in the mangrove was to live between worlds. One foot on land, one in spirit. Here's what most history books never mention. Between 1849 and 1851, British consular reports from the Niger Delta revealed that some Ijaw canoemen helped escaped captives fleeing from coastal slave traders. They hid them inside the thick mangroves, guiding them through secret creeks at night, risking their lives to save others. While some African leaders worked with the traders, some Ijaw clans quietly resisted. They used the same waters of trade to protect the innocent. Yet today, those same river warriors are branded as criminals and pirates. But the truth, they were heroes long before the British ever called them rebels. The Ijaw were there before the maps, before the flags, before the world called this land Nigeria. They are not just a tribe. They are the memory of the river, the first to build, the first to trade, and the last to surrender. So when next you hear the word pirate, remember this. Sometimes history calls heroes by the wrong name. Tell me what you think. Were the Ijaw born from the land or from the water itself? If you believe our stories deserve to be told by us, like this video, share it, and subscribe for the next episode. The Forgotten Heroes, how Ijaw canoe men saved Africans during the slave trade. Because African